I want to show you guys this this post I found on Reddit. So I'm browsing Reddit and political humor. Okay, if you go on Reddit and you click all, you'll see every post. It is a hive of scum and villainy. It's just a lot of people who are really dumb. They don't do research. It's very tribal. Political humor. This was one of the front page posts. It says radical left. It shows a photo from the Capitol and says, it cracks me up when the left is referred to as radical, as if the left is running around carrying assault rifles, denying science, and discussing not accepting the election results. And I'm like, does any of these people have the internet 4 years ago? Like 4 years? Did they use the internet? First of all, okay, fair point. No one is running around with assault rifles. That's just stupid.
Nope.
No one, not anyone. I mean, it'd be kind of a crazy thing to see a guy running around with like an actual M16 or maybe even like a legit belt-fed machine gun of some sort. But no, no one's doing that. I think they just mean rifle in general. Okay, well, the left is doing that like 100 times more often than the right does it. They've been denying science and the election for 4 years. But these people, they live in a bubble.
Yep.
I think it's funny. I wanted to bring this up because you're mentioning Minneapolis. You know, you live there. And I'm like, I was reading a story where it was like 30 gunshots ring out at like 10 p.m. And then it's like by 11 p.m. another 30 gunshots ring out. A guy's on a rooftop. They say, Star Tribune, I think it was an op-ed. They say a guy on a rooftop with an assault rifle. And I'm like, it's probably just a regular rifle, but I get your point. There's a guy on a roof with a gun.
I've seen the picture, and I know where the gunshots happen because, yeah.
So what's going on? What's going on in this autonomous zone?
So in the autonomous zone, from what I understand, and this is going to be a combination of, it's a difficult thing. It's a difficult piece to explain entirely. But what you have is essentially people thinking that the cops are going to come in and raid their buildings. So you'll have like the picture that we're talking about was classically a guy on a rooftop with an AR-15 style rifle sitting up there like he's providing overwatch for the city, right? Or for the neighborhood. So in case a police officer or the police come down or whatever, maybe it's some.
This guy wanted to shoot cops?
I'm not going to ascribe that. I can't tell you what he wanted, but maybe he was genuinely afraid for his neighborhood. Maybe he was afraid that a rival gang was going to do something. I don't know. But I do know that when you can, if you go out into Minneapolis at night and you go into the right neighborhoods, you will find people on rooftops with guns. You will find people.
But that's just like rooftop Koreans, right? Like people who want to protect their businesses.
In some cases, I'm assuming yes, but let's just hope so.
Protect
them from who though?
Right.
Is the
rioters or
you can make the argument that the autonomous zone is trying to protect their people from cops taking in. You could say that people in that area were trying to protect their own businesses.
These people are insane about cops. Like, do you know what happens? I'm going to let everyone in a big secret, and this is going to shock a lot of people. You know what would happen if you were in a big city and you're just like walking down the street and there were two cops in front of you and they're walking down the street? You know what happened if you walked past those cops?
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing. It's like Chicago is notorious for its bad cops. We had a video where like this cop grabbed, or not a video, but a story about a cop grabbed a meter maid because she was riding up. He parked illegally. She wrote him a ticket, so he grabbed her by the throat and lifted her up and slammed her against the wall. Chicago is notorious for crooked cops. And I see a cop on the street. I'm like, howdy. Hey.
Yeah.
These people are like, put up barricades. We need guns. They're police. They're hunting us. They're really delusional, man. But I'll mention this. I think it was in Philly during the riots. There were people tweeting like, hey, stay away from this neighborhood. There's a bunch of, far right guys on roofs with guns, on rooftops with guns. And they post a photo of a bunch of dudes on roofs with guns. All the businesses were safe.
Yep. No, we encountered a place in Minneapolis that this last year, if you looked at New Brighton and where all the looting was, I got to meet some people that it was four guys outside of a tobacco shop. And they all had AK-47s, and they're just chilling there because that was one of two buildings that did not get looted in the area.
And the good news is the left only wants to ban. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say the left. The Democrats only want to ban AR-15, so AKs are totally fine.
Yeah, let's hope so. But
yeah.
No, because there are. I mean, who was it? We already instituted a ban of Russian-made AKs. Like import bans is a big issue.
Right.
So the good news is a lot of companies have moved their manufacturing to the United States. But that is it's a backdoor form.
I just think it's funny when they tweet all day like, we got to ban AR-15s. No one should have one. I'm like, I'll get an AK. Got it, buddy. Thanks.
Yeah,
Like,
thanks.
do you know anything about what you're saying? Because it's meaningless.
Yeah, you got to ask the question every once in a while with gun control: is it ignorance or is it malice? Those are two different things.
Yeah, it's definitely malice.
Oh yeah, and at what point in time does ignorance become malice? Because if you look at the foray of data that we have in relating to gun violence and gun control, I mean, it's not a hard argument to make. The problem is that you've made it so many times that no one cares anymore. All the big violence happens in places where there's gun control. Perhaps we should start making the conclusion that gun control begets violence.
And I think malice is, so it's obviously nothing's absolute. There's probably a lot of ignorant people who just follow along, but it's got to be malice. And you need to understand this. When you make the same argument 800,000 times and they don't care and keep lying, okay, it's not ignorance anymore. Like when someone says that stupid meme, no self-respecting hunter would use an assault weapon. And then you're like, okay, first of all, assault weapon is a nebulous term that means different things in different places, and it's ill-defined because I love that meme of the Ruger 1022 with and without a pistol grip, and one's an assault weapon and one's not. And then you mentioned that hunters use AR-15s. Like I think it's the most popular rifle used in hunting.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the most popular, but it's very common. And you got to look at the different types of hunting, because hunting is a broad spectrum.
Right.
If you're hunting wild boar, absolutely,
Yes.
of course.
But these people clearly don't know, don't care, and after you explain it, they say shut up. They just want a tribal win, and they want to take power away for you for themselves.
Or it's worse, because they just want to have a conversation. Right? They just want to have
They
just want to have a conversation, right? The story that I get to have is when I went to college after the military, in my senior year, the Parkland shooting happened. And so the woke chapter of the school decided to get together and host a conversation about gun control. The extent of the knowledge of the people in the room, there was me, one other veteran, and a guy who had grown up hunting and who was an avid hunter. The three of us were the only three who had ever owned firearms, ever bought them, and the other 30 people, the extent of their knowledge on anything to do with firearms was watching a single Vice video.
Oh, so they were well versed and experienced.
Yeah, well, the point is like, yeah.
As kids.
Oh, absolutely, right? They knew exactly what they were talking about. And the problem that you have there is we can look at each other as equals as people, but we do not have equal information. We do not know. When someone thinks that they deserve a position at the table when they're not even capable of being literate on the subject,
So
why are we debating
Are
them?
you saying service guarantees citizenship?
I am reading that book for the first time because you've
I've not read
mentioned it. I'm reading Starship Troopers for the first time right now.
Well, yeah, it's a huge problem, especially for me because I got there's a photo of me that Mike Feedy took. So he came out. He's the BMX guy from the vlogs, and he came out with us. And as I was carrying the Barrett, which is a ridiculously large and heavy gun, I had this grin. Just put it that way.
It was a grin.
It was a grin. I'd call it something more, but we don't swear. We don't do that here.
Smirk?
And so no, I just swear grin. It's
Okay.
Anyway, somebody commented Tim's journey from I'm in favor of some reasonable gun control to two absolutists is the greatest character arc ever or something like that. And I was like, it's a good point. And the issue was I lived in a city. I was interested in hearing the thoughts and opinions of those who owned guns, but having never I did fire one, but having not owned any or gone through the process to own any or learned anything about different types of ammunition or weapons, I was like, I think a conversation makes sense. There's some things we can do. And then when the riots broke out, someone tried to break into my house. I'll tell you this. Someone tried to break into my house, and then they made this really, really hilarious meme where it was like, the Shebas that are all like weak and pathetic.
Yeah.
And it was like Tim in 2019, and it was the weak, sad one saying, "Help! Someone's trying to break into my house. Call 911." And then it was like Tim Pool 2020, and it's like the big ripped dog carrying a bunch of guns, and he's like, "You get what you deserve." so after someone tried breaking in, the cop told me, he's like, I'll paraphrase. He basically said, "Get a gun," and he said, "If it were me, here's what I'd do." So I went to a local police station and I said, "What's the process for New Jersey?" And they gave me information that was bad. And then I went online, looked it up, and I got information that was bad. And then I was just like, I don't have time for this. Like I'm working, crazy hours and everything, So I just lost track of things. Then when the riots kicked up, I was like, I have no choice. And the mistake I made was I should have went to the gun shop first. They want to sell me the gun. They need to make sure I can get the paperwork. I think it took me like 2 months to finally be able to go and pick up the equipment. And, we were talking earlier in the show about Steven Crowder sending me the SIG M400. The reason I couldn't get it for a year, I could have got it sooner, but I couldn't get it because they sent it to New Jersey, which has insane laws, which made it very difficult. The gun had to be modified in several ways before I could pick it up, before they could ship it out to any other store. And so there was a process, and it fell through. And I'm like, I don't have time to deal with this. They put all these roadblocks in the way to make sure you basically can't do it. Mm-hmm. Well, now we're basically in West Virginia, and so they just snap their fingers, and here you go. That's what constitutional carry is like.
So that was New Jersey you're moving from?
Yeah, leaving New Jersey.
Yeah, and so you couldn't own the firearm in its current state because of New Jersey law.
Yep.
And so
which make no sense.
Which essentially what you're saying is that New Jersey law says that you are legal if you are incapable and you are illegal if you are capable.
Yeah.
I mean,
yep.
So that means they don't trust you, and that means it's malice.
I just think it was funny. So when we were filming the vlog, and I'm at the gun shop picking up the SIG M400, finally gets shipped in, and one of the guys at the shop. So I do the background check. I do NICS, and they were researching me, so it was a little bit longer, but it was like 15 minutes. And then he says, "Congratulations, Uncle Sam says you're allowed to have the gun." And I was like, "Oh, thank you, Uncle Sam, for allowing me to exercise my inalienable right." Mm-hmm. That's where we're currently at. It's a rifle. It's crazy because these leftists, there's a lot of ignorant ones, but the people who work for these nonprofits, the people who are writing policy, they know that an AR-15 is one pull of the trigger, one bullet comes out. They know there's no way that they've spent 10, 15, 20 years advocating to ban guns, and they've not actually ever Google searched any of them. They know they're lying. They know they use assault weapon to scare people.
Yeah, there's a classic argument that says something like, "There's no such thing as an assault weapon," and here's a little-known industry secret: nobody likes a fully automatic weapon is 100% a hobbyist tool, with the exception of very specific military applications. If you're not using a belt-fed machine gun or a submachine gun, like a fully automatic AR-15 has almost no value.
Yeah, we've talked about it quite a bit on the show. I think I remember who it was. Maybe it was Jim. Was it Jim? Maybe
Probably Jim Hansen.
Jim Hansen mentioning. Maybe it was somebody else. In Vietnam. It was spray and pray. Mm-hmm. And so they just waste so much ammo, and they're like, we can't do this. It's ineffective. So they wanted to make people use semi-auto. It's more, precise.
Well, yeah. So you think about body mechanics. Like when every individual pull of the trigger, go look at like a 3-gun competition and go look at someone who's really good at it. That guy shoots really fast. It almost looks like he's shooting fully automatic. The fact is that he's doing is with each pull of the trigger, he is making a conscious decision to pull that trigger and put that bullet as best as he can where he wants it. So if I'm just holding the trigger and holding it and swinging my gun around like a hose, I'm probably not going to hit my target.
I think if anybody's played a game like, you ever played The Division?
I played the first one for about a week.
Division was awesome. Division 2 was pretty good, but I really liked the first one. And then I stopped playing. I don't play that many video games. But in that game, it's actually pretty great because you can get like real guns. Mm-hmm. And I always use like my favorite gun to use in the game was the M1 mm-hmm. or M1A or whatever, because for that reason. A lot of people I know would like to use, submachine guns or whatever in the game. Literally, it's a video game. It's called The Division. Mm-hmm. But then it's spray and pray, and you're like just hoping your accuracy will be high enough. Whereas the way I'd play is just like 1-1-1.
Yeah, you look at a game like Call of Duty, and your character can take an M4 concept and hold it on a decent circle for just the whole magazine. Like
right.
That's not really. I mean, you can do that. You technically can, but it's just not only is it not efficient, but it's sort of like, is it really video games that are driving the culture? Which is why I cannot wait until one of these big companies comes out and they make a game where you're using the guns like people do in the military. So you're running around with your M4 and it's on single shot.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly how you're going to do it. And so, yeah, given the whole fully automatic mechanic is a little bit more, I don't know, video game normal. It's Doom, I guess. You can paraphrase Halo to this.
Man, I remember growing up, and I'm watching a movie, and there's my dad sitting there, and my dad would always comment and say things and predict things, and then I can't remember what movie it was. I'm a little kid, and then like the bad guy sneaks into the room, and then my dad goes, "Ooh, silencer," and then the guy pulls out a gun and goes, "Pew pew pew."
Yep.
And like people grow up believing that stuff's real.
Yeah, I mean, go watch the movie Django Unchained, and in one of the late scenes of the movie, The main character shoots another person at one angle,
and he flies the other way.
And they fly a different direction.
That's Quentin being awesome. By the way.
Yes, and
that was funny.
We hope to trust that it's Quentin Tarantino making fun of his own, not taking his work too seriously. But the problem is that
scene. It was great.
It's great, right? But now people will watch movies and they will legitimately think that's how it works.
And then they ban things based on the movies.
Yeah. What is that Gelman amnesia effect? You're reading the news, you read an article that you are an expert in, and you realize it's all bunk. You turn the page, and then you're like, huh? Like, it's the same thing with firearms. Like, if you're a doctor or a nurse, you know that the nurse TV shows are not really that accurate. But then when you watch NCIS, it's not the same.
A Department of Diagnostics. You ever watch House?
I did.
It's a
saw
good
a couple
show.
episodes. Yeah.
It was basically, I guess, the premise of House was like Sherlock Holmes is a doctor or something. Yeah. And so he gets a mystery. I mean, people believe this stuff. Like, I was reading a story about how people would go to the doctor and they would ask the doctor, like, what's wrong with me? I'm sick. And when they'd be like, well, we're not entirely sure. We'll give you a scan. They'd be like, can you send me to diagnostics? They'd be like, what? It'd be like Dr. House. And they'd be like, that's not real. That's a TV show.
Yeah.
There's no like head doctor to just break into your home and steal your bath soap to try and figure out if it's got a chemical in it. Like, that's what they do in the show. Like, the doctors would literally break into the person's house and then like take their Drano and be like, look what we found. This is what's killing them. You know what, man? I don't know how you solve for that problem because you're allowed to have TV shows, but people believe TV and movies are real too much.
Yeah, I would never want to have like an enforcement of accuracy committee, right? I mean, there's a kind of a trope that goes about in the military that some people have lost their jobs because they went to advise entertainment and they were too accurate. There's stories about that.
What's the legitimate reason for making suppressors NFA items? For those that aren't familiar, it's like you got to file a tax. It takes like 9 months. You get your fingerprints. It's very difficult to buy.
Yeah, there is a burden entry for owning a suppressor, which is an item that makes it safer to shoot the firearm.
It's just insane.
Yeah, what does it do? It protects hearing damage. Now, if you're gonna universalize healthcare, and you're gonna get more people with hearing damage, okay.
So silencers aren't real.
The term silencer is just a colloquial term,
right?
There was a long time when people referred to them as silencer. Right now, people are using the term suppressor more often, and I think some of that is as an attempt to better translate what the object does.
They're still loud.
They're still loud. The bullet passes or breaks the sound. If the bullet breaks the sound barrier, you're still getting the sonic crack, and that's what's going to hurt the most. Yeah. So yes, when you shoot a firearm that has a suppressor on, you're probably wearing ear protection as well.
Yeah. I've fired a weapon with a suppressor. It's still loud. The recoil was better, and it wasn't as loud. But it's like people could hear it probably a mile away. I mean,
if you know what it sounds like, yeah, you actually know what it sounds like. But you were talking about events with people in the riots where someone is launching fireworks, okay, but someone is shooting a gun and they think it's fireworks.
Well, so in these riots, it's almost never fireworks. Sometimes people will throw fireworks, but in my experience, it's more often than not someone shooting a gun, and then you get really dumb journalists being like, "It sounds like fireworks."
There was a tactic in Minneapolis where activists were firing legitimately firing mortar fireworks at buildings and people.
But those are very different booms, right?
They are.
So
they are.
You ever see firecrackers? Like, you get the red package, you light it.
Yeah.
I've
black
been with
hats?
Yeah.
Is that what they're called?
Are they? No, those are black hats, are they? Maybe.
I think they are.
Yeah?
Yeah.
They're like the little red and white ones. Yeah. And you light them, they go pop. Yeah. And actually, we had some recently. We had some recently. We were just popping them off in the parking lot or whatever. But journalists, for some reason, think that people just carry those around with them in cities, especially in crime-ridden areas during riots.
Yeah, you can't buy them in Minneapolis, which means you have to go to a different state to get them. So
or it's a gun, or people are going pop, 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 and they're like, just fireworks, just mind you, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah. Again, their information that's being given to them is bad.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.